For years, the AI race has been seen as an almost exclusive playground for the United States. From GPT-2 to GPT-4 Turbo, from Alexa to ChatGPT, the world has grown accustomed to looking westward whenever artificial intelligence takes a step forward. But now a formidable signal has sounded from the east. In April 2025, Baidu, the Chinese tech giant, unexpectedly launched ERNIE 4.5 Turbo, a large language model claimed to rival, and in some tasks even surpass, GPT-4 Turbo. What's more concerning, it's no longer a lab demonstration. It's being deployed in real-world applications, in self-driving cars, hospitals, classrooms, and government systems. While the US is caught up debating AI ethics and content control, China has swiftly built an autonomous AI ecosystem, not just for domestic use, but aimed at the global stage. And now the question isn't, can China catch up? But is the US being overtaken on the very playing field it created? Join Top 10 Discoveries Official as we explore the rise of Chinese AI and why it could shake the foundations of a technological superpower. Since 2017, China has openly pursued an ambitious plan to become the global leader in artificial intelligence by 2030. Dubbed the New Generation Artificial Intelligence Development Plan, this strategy isn't just a declaration, it's a national blueprint for a future where AI becomes the core pillar of the economy, security, and innovation. And they're sticking closely to the plan. According to the Tsinghua AI Index 2024, China has invested over $26 billion annually in AI, not counting tens of billions more from private conglomerates like Tencent, Alibaba, ByteDance, and state-backed investment funds. Tencent spent $10.7 billion on AI in 2024 and plans to increase significantly in 2025. Alibaba committed at least $52 billion to AI and cloud infrastructure over 3 years. ByteDance projected to spend over $20.7 billion in 2025, focusing on computational power for AI, and notably, a massive $138 billion state-backed investment fund is being deployed to support AI, quantum technology, and clean energy over the next 2 decades. China's AI ecosystem is growing at breakneck speed, from just a few hundred companies in 2015 to 1,944 domestic AI firms today, with a total investment value of $85.65 billion over the past decade. Leading the charge are familiar names: Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, iFlyTech, alongside hundreds of startups heavily backed by cities, provinces, and the central government. China also dominates globally in AI patents, with over 38,000 patents in generative AI processing, nearly 6 times that of the US. They've established 20 key AI hubs, from Beijing to Shenzhen, and accelerated AI integration into every sector, from healthcare and energy to space exploration. But the biggest difference is that China is doing what the US cannot, mobilizing the entire nation to pursue a single goal. While the US lets the AI race unfold among private companies, OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, China has chosen the path of state-backed innovation, where the government creates legal frameworks, provides funding, and even owns the playing field. Of course, this model sparks debate. Can state-directed AI be creative and flexible enough? Does it encourage innovation or merely serve control? But when judged by scale, speed, and real-world deployment, China is closing the gap, and faster than many in the West imagine. While the world still positions OpenAI as the pinnacle of artificial intelligence, in the East, a quiet but powerful name is rising: ERNIE, the AI model developed by Baidu, not only narrowing the gap with the US, but redefining the concept of AI for the masses in China's own way. In April 2025, Baidu simultaneously unveiled 2 new models, ERNIE 4.5 Turbo and ERNIE X1 Turbo. While the West continues to develop expensive, hard-to-access AI models, China has chosen a different path, building powerful yet affordable AI, optimized to the point it can be integrated into every industry, classroom, and hospital. ERNIE 4.5 Turbo can be accessed at an input cost of just 11 cents per million tokens. Compare that to OpenAI's GPT 4.5, which costs $75 for the same data volume, a nearly 700-fold difference. This isn't just a technical gap, it's a global strategic disparity in access to artificial knowledge. Not only is it affordable, ERNIE is powerful. In international AI benchmarks like MathVista, DocVQA, and multimodal reasoning, ERNIE 4.5 scored an average of 77.77, outpacing OpenAI's GPT-4 which scored 73.92. The X1 Turbo version, specialized in deep reasoning, even achieved 79.6, leading in tests like MMLU-Pro, HumanEval+, and GSM-8K, key metrics for AI reasoning capabilities. This progress doesn't stop at scores. The Stanford AI Index 2025 shows the performance gap between top US and Chinese AI models narrowed from 103 points in January 2024 to just 23 points by February 2025. At this rate, China could overtake the US as early as next year. A leap no nation has achieved so quickly in any prior technological race. But what makes ERNIE truly unique is its speed of commercialization and real-world application. From hospitals to power grid data centers, from self-driving cars on Beijing streets to banking systems in Shenzhen, ERNIE 4.5 is no longer just a large language model. It's become the invisible brain of critical sectors. In healthcare, when lives are analyzed by Chinese models. At Beijing Tongren Hospital, over 15,000 patients visit daily. Previously, medical record processing relied on humans, slow, error-prone, and risky. Now, ERNIE 4.5 Turbo is deeply integrated into diagnostic workflows, enabling doctors to retrieve information from texts, CT scans, lab results, and treatment histories in seconds. But what truly sets this model apart isn't just speed. ERNIE can analyze multimodal patient records, detect disease recurrence trends, predict adverse drug reactions, and even suggest treatment plans, all based on big data aggregated from millions of clinical cases nationwide. And with a processing cost of just 55 cents per million tokens, ERNIE is 140 times cheaper than GPT 4.5. In a world where healthcare systems are overburdened, this isn't just a technological edge. It's a survival solution for low-income nations. In smart transportation, ERNIE takes the wheel of Chinese self-driving cars. On the streets of Beijing and Guangzhou, Baidu's Apollo Go self-driving cars quietly navigate. No driver, no steering wheel, but with an ultra-responsive brain processing every decision in real time. ERNIE 4.5 Turbo. This model handles real-time language interactions between users and vehicles, understanding context, voice, and environmental inputs, cameras, radar, to coordinate safe journeys. Unlike traditional rule-based navigation systems, ERNIE learns from prior driving data, detects congestion risks, adjusts routes based on user habits, and even simulates surrounding vehicle behavior. In the US, self-driving tech remains the domain of companies like Waymo or Cruise, where data is sent to servers for analysis before responding. Meanwhile, ERNIE processes directly on edge AI platforms, reducing response latency to under 50 milliseconds. A figure that could save lives in critical situations. In finance and banking, ERNIE, the silent risk advisor. At the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, ICBC, ERNIE has been deployed in credit analysis systems, real-time transaction monitoring, and risk alerts for corporate loans. No longer reliant on traditional statistical models, ERNIE uses deep learning to read entire financial reports, internal emails, loan histories, and predict default probabilities with over 91% accuracy. At China Construction Bank, ERNIE-powered financial chatbots handle over 1.2 million queries daily, from loan consultations and contract explanations to personal financial planning support. What's notable is, this system requires no GPT-connected APIs, sends no data beyond China's borders, and faces no context length limits. Everything is processed within China's internal network, secure, sovereign, and highly efficient. In industry, energy, and smart cities, China doesn't build AI to write poetry. They deploy ERNIE into the pillars that run a nation. In the power sector, ERNIE monitors national grid operations, detecting issues before they occur, by analyzing billions of data points from infrastructure sensors hourly. In manufacturing, the model is integrated into BYD factories, automating quality control and reducing product defect rates to below 0.5%. In Shenzhen, ERNIE runs the Urban Traffic Control Center, analyzing traffic cameras, predicting congestion, and dynamically adjusting signal timings in real time. It's clear, ERNIE is no longer just AI, it's national infrastructure. The most alarming thing about ERNIE isn't its high benchmark scores. It's how China has made it the core of every layer of its economy, from civilian to military, from hospitals to satellites. In the US, models like GPT-4 primarily live in browsers, SaaS applications, and enterprise trials. In China, ERNIE lives in cars, assembly lines, banks, hospitals, radars, and strategic systems. It doesn't just converse intelligently, it runs the country with data, a closed but complete AI ecosystem capable of operating independently of the US and even exporting to the world. The target market isn't Silicon Valley, it's the global South, nations seeking affordable, easily deployable AI not controlled by the West. Governments in Egypt, Brazil, and the UAE have begun piloting ERNIE in public services. Pakistan signed agreements to apply AI in national education. Small steps, but in a larger game. While the US debates AI ethics and privacy, China has quietly embedded artificial intelligence into every critical infrastructure, every production line, every classroom. And as ERNIE goes global, the question is no longer whose AI is better, but who will control the AI of the future and shape the world in their image. On the surface, the temporary US-China agreement appears to be the result of good faith negotiations. But in reality, it's a mutually necessary pause. And what's more telling, each side stepped back for different reasons. Under current administration, the shock and negotiate tactic proved effective in past trade talks. However, the 2025 context has shifted. Inflation remains a haunting specter in the US, especially as consumer prices rose again after a brief Q1 adjustment. Maintaining 145% tariffs on China is driving up costs for imported raw materials, components, and basic consumer goods, directly pressuring the Fed and monetary policy. Wall Street is concerned, with the S&P 500 dropping nearly 8% in April before the agreement, pushing many tech firms into dangerous valuation territory. And above all, the 2026 midterm elections loom, meaning the US leader needs a political calm to consolidate domestic support, rather than a protracted trade war that could alienate Midwest farmers. The 90-day deal allows the US to cool domestic prices, restore market confidence, and create a flexible timeframe for deeper strategic calculations, without losing face. Meanwhile, Beijing entered the talks with its own undeniable domestic pressures. China's economy is grappling with a dual crisis of a stagnant property sector and weak consumption. The 125% US tariffs made it hard for China to offload tech inventory, particularly items like smartphones, electronics, and new energy batteries, which form a massive share of its exports. Urban youth unemployment surpassed 20%, according to early May data, placing immense strain on social welfare systems and political credibility. The renminbi faces devaluation risks, forcing the People's Bank of China to inject liquidity, while still needing US dollars for energy, raw material imports, and domestic credit system stability. In this context, a 90-day window not only allows China to ramp up exports again, but also gives the government time to address domestic issues before facing new trade policy adjustments, if they return. What's fascinating is that neither the US nor China de-escalated because they resolved their conflicts, but because both needed to delay confrontation to address internal challenges. The US needs to keep consumer prices in check without being forced to raise interest rates further. China needs to push goods to global markets to sustain growth and political stability. And Geneva, with its neutrality and discrete setting, became the ideal venue for both to pause their confrontation while keeping hands on the hilt. This isn't peace, it's time for each side to tend to economic strains before deciding whether to resume strategic confrontation or shift tactics. The AI race between the US and China, at its core, is no longer just about technology. It's the new battleground for global power, where two opposing models, one driven by free markets, the other by state coordination, are vying to establish dominance in controlling information, data, and the world's future operations. In the US, artificial intelligence grows from faith in private innovation. OpenAI, Google DeepMind, and Anthropic all began in small labs, fueled by venture capital and scaled through markets. Each step, from GPT-2 to GPT-4 Turbo, has been refined through user feedback and public debates on technological ethics. In contrast, China doesn't wait for markets to shape AI. They issue resolutions, they allocate budgets, they build computational infrastructure like highways, and distribute models like strategic resources. From made in China to trained in China, a development philosophy where the government isn't just an observer, but the architect, commander, and often the first user. And they're moving fast. A leap accelerated by a speed that even Silicon Valley engineers admit is non-market. While the US spent $109.1 billion in private AI investment in 2024, China, with just $9.3 billion in private funds, achieved near-equivalent performance, thanks to a holistic strategy where the state is the investor, deployer, and buyer. But the real turning point isn't in benchmarks, it's in how Chinese AI is used as a form of soft infrastructure to export influence. While the US deploys GPT through APIS, SaaS products and Western enterprise partners, China extends ERNIE globally as an extension of the Belt and Road Initiative. When Egypt signs port development deals, they come with data centers. When Pakistan receives infrastructure investments, they include AI platforms for education and administration. AI is packaged in affordable tech bundles, sometimes accompanied by a deliberate data governance ideology. This difference is stark in how both sides handle AI for defense and security. In the US, ethical debates over AI and military applications have stalled projects or led to withdrawals from Pentagon contracts. In contrast, China has integrated AI into early warning radars, naval tactics simulations, defense supply chain optimization, and satellite imagery analysis, all within a closed network, independent of external dependencies and without needing approval. And here's the crux. The US still leads in core technology, but China is leading in deployment speed, integration depth, and setting standards in developing nations. While AI is seen as a tool for democratizing knowledge in the West, in China, it's a tool for control, coordination, and ultimately, exporting political influence. As nations in the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia begin choosing ERNIE for its affordability, ease of deployment, and lack of political strings, it may be the first time in modern history that global intelligence is no longer written by the West. In less than 2 years, China, through a tightly state-coordinated AI ecosystem, has transformed models like ERNIE, once seen as mere catch-up efforts, into direct challenges to US leadership. From processing performance and deployment speed to cost and application scale, ERNIE 4.5 Turbo and X1 Turbo aren't just tech products, they're manifestations of a comprehensive AI development strategy tied to specific geopolitical goals. If the US once rested easy, knowing others will always be imitators, that story has changed. Baidu isn't copying, they're innovating. They're customizing for China's context, and above all, they're commercializing at a pace the rest of the world struggles to match. China isn't just closing the technological gap. They're exporting a development model through artificial intelligence with low costs, high content control, and deep integration into every sector, from healthcare and education to infrastructure and defense. And if the US doesn't respond fast enough, doesn't broaden access, doesn't make AI more universal and deployable, the 21st century could witness a new information order written in Chinese data, powered by Chinese models, and decided by Chinese algorithms. If you think this is a race worth watching, or even worth worrying about, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe China will lead the AI revolution, or does the US still have what it takes to hold the top spot? We want to hear from you. Leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe to Top 10 Discoveries Official for the deepest analyses on technology, strategy, and the global future.